This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Bruschi and continuing coverage of the case against Karen Reed.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Sergeant Bukhenik.
Good afternoon, sir.
I want to talk to you for a second about roles in this case, in this investigation. Would you agree with me that Michael Proctor was the lead investigator as well as the case agent in charge of this case?
He was assigned as the case officer for the case.
In that position, given the fact that it was his assignment, would you agree with me that he had a leadership role insofar as the investigation of the case is concerned?
I wouldn't call it a leadership role. It's more of a facilitator, liaison between the DA's personnel within the office and the state police. He also helps facilitate any missions, outstanding tasks that need to be completed.
He obviously had a supervisor, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
He obviously had a supervisor, correct?
He did, yes, that would be myself.
That would be you.
Yes.
Every case has some lead trooper in your unit, correct? Every case is assigned to someone to sort of be in charge and lead the charge of the investigation. Is that right?
Every case has a case officer that manages the investigation.
Right. And managing the investigation doesn't mean just, typing up schedules. It means actually managing the investigation, like deciding what search warrants are going to be written in certain circumstances. That's one example, correct?
They're responsible for writing and authoring those search warrants. Sometimes the recommendation, suggestion, or leadership comes from the supervisors or the DA staff where their experience might dictate otherwise.
And sometimes it comes from the lead case agent himself or herself, correct?
At times, yes.
Every team, even back when you were in the military, you were on many teams in the Marine Corps, correct?
I'm sorry, you were speaking, facing away from me. I couldn't hear you.
Every team, including back in the time you were in the military, back in the time you were in the Marine Corps, every team has multiple individuals involved in that team, correct? That's the whole point of a team, multiple people, correct?
I would agree with you that a team consists of more than one person. Yes.
And there has to be some sort of echelon of leadership on that team, correct? Everybody's not just an equal, co-equal, correct?
We might have different duties, responsibilities, but some teams have equal rank. Yeah.
But there's going to be a team leader, right? That's a military phrase, team leader.
Yes, there is a team leader in the Marine Corps, in the rifle platoon, but not every team has a leader.
Did the team in this case, in this investigation, have a leader? Someone who was assigned as the lead case agent. Not just another officer, not just another detective, but the lead case agent.
The case officer for the investigation was Michael Proctor.
But you don't want to say lead case agent or case officer, correct?
I refer to that billet as case officer.
Your responsibility as the supervisor over this particular case officer or any other case officer that you might have, or any other trooper that you might have under your supervision, your responsibility in no small part is to supervise the individuals under your command to ensure that the case is adequately investigated. It's properly investigated. That's part of your role as a supervisor, correct?
Is one of my many responsibilities, yes.
It's partly because you have more experience, I'm guessing, than the people under your charge. Is that right?
Certainly in my position, but there are many instances where a sergeant might have less experience than a well-seasoned trooper that's been in the office for 15 to 20 years. So
fair enough. Fair enough. That may be the case, but under ordinary circumstances, you earn your way into a supervisory role in the Massachusetts State Police through both not just time, but time and experience, correct?
We take an exam and then get promoted based on the exam.
Part of the responsibility that you have as a supervisor is to make sure that the case is properly investigated, and that may include making sure you have the right suspects, right? the array of suspects that may exist, you want to make sure, and you supervise to make sure that that array of suspects is appropriate and proper, correct?
In every investigation, we follow the evidence, we follow the statements made, provided by eyewitnesses, witnesses in the case. Sometimes the defendants or suspects provide statements to us. At many instances, those could be contradictory statements. We follow the evidence in every investigation, and that evidence determines who the suspect, person of interest, or ultimately the defendant is.
And you want to make sure that you gather, or that your subordinates gather, that evidence in an appropriate and objective way. It's obviously the foundation of a good investigation, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Maybe. You obviously, as a supervisor, want to make sure, you talked about following the evidence, you want to make sure that that evidence is gathered in a way that is adequate, in a way that is objective, that in a way that is unbiased, so that you can gather the evidence that will lead you to the right folks, right, to the right suspects.
We always want to gather as much evidence as possible. We conduct that gathering in the most appropriate ways possible. Sometimes there are tough decisions that have to be made where we have to either decide whether we're collecting evidence A or evidence B, and those decisions have to be made on the spot. At times it's a time-sensitive matter. At times it's a decision made by a group putting their heads together and deciding on that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the most
Let's try it again.
Accurate explanation.
Okay. You done?
I am.
Okay. Let's try that again. You want to make sure that the evidence, as a supervisor, supervising your subordinates, you want to make sure that the evidence is gathered in an appropriate way, in an objective way, correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You're also doing everything you can as a supervisor and someone with the experience to make sure that the highest levels of integrity and those demands are met in any investigation that you work on.
If there was a question of integrity, those individuals would not be part of an investigation.
That includes knowing, obviously, what your subordinates are doing.
During the conduct of the investigation, during the process of us investigating a crime, yes, we know what is going on, because every bit of information that comes in needs to be shared, and we need to make sure the whole team is aware of all the evidence and information that is available to us at the time. You
want to make sure that, I'm going to use a colloquial phrase, you keep tabs on those who are reporting to you, correct? What are they doing? What are they engaged in? When are they coming and going? Who are they interviewing? Things of that nature. Basic investigative things, correct? For the most part. You can't track every single person all the time, but this is a very serious line of work. A lot depends on it. We speak for those that can no longer speak for themselves. So we do our best to conduct every investigation with integrity, honor, and get to the truth. If you don't properly supervise, and I'm talking about your role now as a supervisor, if you don't properly engage in that supervision, it obviously increases chances for mistakes. It increases chances for bias to seep in. It increases chances that something could affect the adequacy of the investigation, correct? That's a lot there. Can you repeat that, please? Maybe one section at a time? Sure. If you don't properly supervise your subordinates in an investigation, failing to properly supervise them could increase the chances that mistakes are made. Isn't that right? That's why yes, that is one possibility. Okay. Let's break it down. It also increases chances that there could be inherent biases that are seeping into the case that you want to make sure doesn't happen, correct? I believe that human beings all have biases, but during the investigation, those biases do not affect, especially in this case, they did not affect any outcome of the investigation. So I wasn't even talking about this case. I was talking about cases in general and your supervisory role in general. Your job as a supervisor is to seek out and make sure that there are no biases in an investigation, correct? Absolutely. You want to make sure that any investigation, as a supervisor, any investigation that is under your charge, under your supervision, is done adequately and professionally. Is that right? Yes, that is right. And there is a chain of command for that. right? Meaning someone under your charge needs to report up the chain of command to you, and you have supervisors to whom you report, correct?
Yes, it's a paramilitary structure, and it is in order for the colonel to keep command and control over the entire agency of 2,000 plus people, it is absolutely necessary for there be a reporting up and down within the ranks of the Massachusetts State Police.
And you have, by the way, what's your chain of command? Who did you report to back in 2022?
I directly reported to Detective Lieutenant Tully.
Especially you mentioned this case a second ago, especially in a case like this, a homicide investigation, especially in a homicide investigation involving a police officer. You have to maintain your knowledge, an intimate knowledge of those under your command, under your charge, to ensure that what they're doing fits what you believe to be the proper protocol. In other words, you're not just going to let people loose. You're going to watch what they're doing and actually supervise them, correct?
Yes, absolutely. We are professionals, and we conduct each and every investigation with that in mind and with the integrity that is necessary.
You just used the word I was about to use. That ensures the adequacy of the investigation, correct?
Yes.
To use your word, that ensures the integrity of the investigation. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
As you sit here today, do you believe that this investigation, now I'm going to turn to this investigation, was conducted with professionalism, with competence, at the highest level of integrity?
This investigation was conducted professionally, with integrity, and all the evidence collected, all the statements collected, pointed in one direction. There was no bias influence on the evidence, on the information that was collected, or which direction the investigation pointed naturally.
Former Trooper Michael Proctor was the person who was the assigned case agent, the lead case agent in this particular investigation, correct?
Michael Proctor was the case officer for this investigation.
He was assigned, ultimately, to use another phrase, as the lead investigator, wasn't he?
I'm not going to agree with you.
Is there a reason that you want to try to distance yourself from naming Michael Proctor as the lead investigator in the case? Is there some reason?
I am not trying to distance myself. All I'm saying is the term that I use is the case officer. We're simply case managers. There's no leading investigation in any direction.
So, in your mind, well, let me ask you this. As a case officer, another word for that, synonym would be an investigator, right? He's a detective, an investigator, right?
He is a detective, yes.
And he was the one who was assigned by the Massachusetts State Police because of his on-call status that night, that morning, January 29, 2022, he was assigned to the case, correct?
Michael.
Yes or no? Assigned to the case. That's all I'm asking.
Well, you said a lot before that, so.
I said he was assigned to the case. What I said before that was January 29, 2022. He was assigned by the Massachusetts State Police as the case officer for this case. Correct?
No.
Who was?
He was assigned to be on call a month prior. Just because he was on call, he was assigned the case as a result. He was not assigned the case right there and then, because his assignment began much earlier in the day.
So we can do this all day, I suppose. He was on call.
He was.
Correct?
He was.
Because he was on call, any case that happened to come in would be assigned to whom?
To the on-call trooper that's on the schedule.
Which was whom?
It was Michael Proctor.
Let me just ask you this. Do you believe that Michael Proctor, his involvement in this case, taints the investigation? Tainted the investigation?
No.
Not at all.
The investigation was done with honor, integrity, and all the evidence pointed in one direction only.
Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor?
Is that a question? I'm sorry.
Sure is. Everything I say is a question. Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor? Okay.
Sustain to the comment. Go ahead and ask it again, Mr.
I'll ask it
President.
again. You said honor and integrity. Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor. Objection.
I'll allow it.
The investigation was conducted with honor and integrity, and all the evidence pointed in one direction and one direction only.
So, Sergeant Bukhenik, you don't want to answer my question. Correct?
I will answer your question, absolutely.
Do you think this case was handled with honor and integrity by Michael Proctor, Sergeant?
The investigation was handled with integrity by Michael Proctor.
You do know that he touched or had input in nearly every part of this case, obviously, as a case officer, correct?
He managed the case.
So he had some input or had some connection to nearly every part of the case, be it the physical evidence, the search warrants, the interviews, things of that nature.
He was one of the involved with collecting evidence, conducting interviews, and signing affidavits for the search warrants.
He didn't take a minor role in this case. He had a major role in this case. Would you at least agree with that?
He had a role that was more significant than others. A major role would, to me, suggest that he had 51% or more. And with a team of the size that we had working on this case, he did not have a major role.
So you believe, as you sit here today, your testimony is Michael Proctor did not have a major role in this investigation of Commonwealth versus Karen Reed because he didn't have 51% of something? That's your testimony?
That's the way I understand it, yes.
Okay. You're aware of the search warrants that were drafted, affidavits that were attendant to those search warrants in this case, correct?
Am I aware of affidavits drafted?
Search warrants and affidavits.
In support of the search warrants?
Correct.
Yes, I am.
Right. You're also aware that there was a good amount of physical evidence that was handled in this case? Recovered, touched, booked, assigned or booked into the lab, things of that nature?
I am aware of the evidence involved in this case, yes.
May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Sergeant Bukhenik, I've handed you a binder, and it's tabbed just for your convenience, so I don't have to walk back and forth. With the court's permission.
Yes.
Can you open tab 1? I'm not going to ask you to read the entire search warrant, but is that a search warrant that ends in 07?
Yes, it is.
And it's for, generally, Verizon records for Ms. Reed's cell phone.
No, I would not agree with you, sir.
What is that search warrant for?
It's for Verizon records for a VIN number, which looks like a vehicle.
Is that the vehicle, the SUV, the Lexus SUV in this case?
I do not know for sure because it doesn't have that identifier here, and I don't know the VIN number off the top of my head.
Okay, fair enough. Who's the applicant?
Michael Proctor.
Can you turn to tab 2? Is that a search warrant ending in the number 14?
Give me 1 second.
I'm sorry,
I don't want to
13.
ruin your presentation here.
Search warrant ending in 13. I misspoke.
Okay.
Is that a search warrant for, generally speaking, Karen Reed's cell phone?
The quality of this photocopy is so poor I cannot make out exactly what it's for, but there is an overlay of print. I can read what is presented to me. if that's what you want me to do. I do not know if this is an authentic copy of a search warrant.
Let's just look at the affidavit. Can you tell me who the affiant is?
On this document, the affiant is Michael Proctor.
Can you turn to by the way, just staying with that for a second, you said you don't recognize it. Do you recognize it as being attendant to this case?
The application or the affidavit?
The search warrant. Well,
Again,
they go together.
The application or the together?
They go together.
I understand that, but I'm asking which document you want me to.
The document in total. In other words, it's not a search warrant dealing with a different case. It's dealing with Ms. Reed's case, correct?
Again, I cannot say from the search warrant because of the quality of it. The addendum A appears to be with this case.
Okay. Have you ever seen it before?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever seen it before, this search warrant?
I haven't read the whole thing, so I can't testify to that.
So this could be a search warrant that you never even saw?
Based on what you're presenting to me, never having seen or not having read all the details of it, I cannot say whether I've seen it before or not.
So you're not sure that Michael Proctor didn't just do the search warrant without your knowledge? As you sit here.
I don't know if this is truly Michael Proctor's product.
Think that might be a forgery?
I'm sorry?
You think that might be a forgery at the end of that affidavit?
Well, for one, it's not signed. So I don't know who produced this. What I'm saying to you is I don't know who produced this. The quality of the first document, the narrative, I don't know who produced it. If you show me a search warrant application with an affidavit from court with a stamp, the time stamp and the stamp water seal from court, I will tell you that that's what it appears to be. What you've shown me here, I don't know what this is.
Otherwise, looking at that document, seeing the affidavit, seeing the addendum, seeing Michael Proctor's name on it, no clue whether or not that's a warrant that's attendant to this case that Michael Proctor drafted and submitted. You have no clue.
I can't take you at your word.
I'm not asking you to take me at my word, sir. I'm not testifying. I'm asking you to take the document at its word. Do you recognize it or not? If you don't, you don't.
I do not know.
Okay. Let's turn to tab 3. Does that appear to be a search warrant ending in the number 14?
Yes, it is.
And does that appear to generally be associated with ring camera footage at One Meadows? Or can you not tell that?
It has an email address, an associated MAC address, so yes, that's what it appears to be.
Okay. Can you tell me who the affiant is?
Again, this is not a signed search warrant. This is just an affidavit.
Whose name is at the bottom of it?
The name at the bottom printed is Michael Proctor.
Can you turn to tab 4? Does that appear to be a search warrant ending in the number 04?
Yes, it does.
And does that appear to be for ring footage also at One Meadows in 2023?
Based on the application addendum A, it's the same email address associated with the previous location of Meadows, yes.
Who's the affiant?
Michael Proctor.
Can you turn to tab 5? Does that appear to be a police report?
It does.
And do you see a reference in that police report for a search warrant ending in 10 for a telematics system regarding Ms. Reed's SUV? And it may speed things up if you look at page 2.
There is a reference to it, yes.
Okay. Whose report is that?
It's Trooper Nicholas Garino's report.
And who is referred to on page 2 as seeking the search warrant ending in 10?
That search warrant was issued at Stone District Court and presented by Trooper Proctor.
Turn to page, tab 6, if you wouldn't mind. Do you see a search warrant ending in the number 77?
I see the application, yes.
And this deals with Google, some geofence data, correct?
Yes, it is.
Who's the affiant?
Again, this search warrant is not signed, but I would say this isn't an actual search warrant, but it seems like at the bottom it says Trooper Michael Proctor.
Can you turn to tab 7, please? Does that appear to be a report authored by Nicholas Garino?
It does.
Does that deal with John O'Keefe's cell phone?
It's a report written by Nicholas Garino referencing Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone, yes.
And it indicates that Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone was seized by a particular trooper?
That's what the report indicates, yes.
Who's the trooper?
In this report, it says that Trooper Proctor secured the cell phone.
Turn to tab 8, if you don't mind. Do you see a similar report by Trooper Garino?
Yes.
And do you see reference to Karen Reed's cell phone having been seized?
Yes.
And that was seized by Trooper Proctor also, correct?
Yeah, him and I were there together.
His name is in the report, though.
Yes, his name is in the report.
Your name is not in the report, is it?
I'll have to check. Give me a second, please. My initials are in the report.
Turn to tab 9. Do you see a report by you
I do.
indicating early spring 2022? There was a CPD video requested by somebody, correct?
Yes.
Who did you indicate requested that CPD video?
The case officer, Trooper Proctor.
And you went and actually, in this instance, you actually went and got the video and delivered it to him, correct? At his request.
Yes, as the case officer, I would, yeah.
Because as the case officer, he's entitled to ask for things, have them delivered, correct?
Anybody's entitled to ask for things, absolutely. We are pursuing justice. We're looking for any and all possible evidence.
I'm sure you are. As the case officer, he's entitled to ask for things to be delivered to him.
Yes, yes.
Even by his supervisor.
Yes, absolutely.
If you wouldn't mind turning to tab 10, please. Do you recognize that report?
I'm sorry, I was still turning. It's the same report.
Same report, different paragraph, also talking about, or the different sentence, talking about a July 2023 CPD or Canton Police Department video that was also requested, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Sure. That particular part of the report, where I'm directing your attention to July of 2023, there was a Canton Police Department video requested by someone, correct?
Yes.
Who was that requested by?
Trooper Proctor.
And who delivered it to Trooper Proctor?
I did.
Turn to tab 11, please. You see a document referencing the analysis of Canton Town Library videos.
I do.
And who is it that's listed as having received and reviewed and analyzed the town library videos?
Give me just 1 second. I have to read the report. It was Trooper Proctor that analyzed the video and wrote up the timeline.
Thank you. Sergeant, if you'll turn to tab 12. Do you recognize that as being a November 2023 report?
Yes, it's report number 83.
And who authored that report?
This report is authored by Trooper Michael Proctor.
Does that indicate, and I'm not going to ask you to go through the entirety of the report, but if you scan that report, does that indicate certain items of evidence that Trooper Proctor claimed to have recovered on his own? Pieces of plastic, small black plastic, clear plastic, fragment of glass on February 11th, 2022, 3 pieces of clear plastic on February 11th, 2022, clear and red plastic pieces on February 18th, 2022. Is all that referenced in there?
Those items are documented in this report as were collected. Yes.
And those are all documented having been collected by Trooper Proctor himself, right?
Yes, they were.
And if you'll turn to tab 13. This is an evidence submission form, correct?
I'm sorry, 13?
Tab 13, yes, sir.
Yes, it's a copy of an evidence submission form from March 14th, 2022.
And that indicates submission of certain items of physical evidence from Massachusetts State Police custody to the crime lab, correct?
I would say so, based on this copy's information on there. Yes, I would say so.
And who's the person who submitted the items that I'll ask you about?
It is Trooper Michael Proctor.
And those items include clothing, is that right? We're going to have to go through them line by line, but generally, you see clothing items mentioned on there?
The first line is a clothing item, yes.
That includes a lot of what we saw today, Sergeant Bukhenik, the shirt, the orange shirt, the sweatshirt, blue jeans, belt, correct?
Blue jeans, belt. What was the other thing that you listed?
Shirts.
There was a shirt, yes.
It also lists certain items of plastic, certain items of glass, is that right?
Some of those items are listed, yes.
And it even mentions the straw that you talked to Mr. Brennan about, correct?
Yes, the straw is mentioned and numbered.
And all of those items were submitted on March 14th, 2022, correct?
That's what the form indicates, yes.
And all of those items were submitted by Michael Proctor from his custody and control to the crime lab, correct?
That's who signed the form.
So the things that, according to the form at least, and your experience with forms of this nature, it was Michael Proctor who possessed and controlled those items before they were turned over to the to the crime lab, correct?
That would be accurate, yes.
So he would have maintained all of it, is that right? At least at some point?
They would have been in his custody as he's transporting them for processing at the lab, of course.
And then after he maintained control of it, eventually he turned it over and submitted those items, correct?
If the form is accurate, then yes, that's absolutely right.
So we've just gone through a few things. What you and I have just gone through is not nearly everything that Michael Proctor was involved with in terms of this investigation, correct? We didn't talk about witness interviews, right?
We did not talk about witness interviews, no.
So there's a lot more that Michael Proctor on a day-to-day basis as a case officer was involved in addition to what you and I just talked about, right?
Yes, there was many more things he was involved in. As I mentioned, that was just report 83. There's a part in the investigation as the case officer managing the tasks, but there's a lot of people involved in this investigation.
So he touched or authored or reviewed or controlled at least every bit of what you and I have talked about this morning, all these items that we've just talked about, correct?
He is referenced or is his name appears on most of these documents, yes, if not all.
Of the ones that we just went through, he's not just referenced, he's the author of every single one of them, correct?
No. Nicholas Garino wrote some of these reports.
Sorry, the author of the search warrant. I asked you to look at Nicholas Garino's report to reference the search warrant that Nicholas Garino referenced in his report, and Michael Proctor was the author of that search warrant, correct?
Again, I hate to do this to you, but
Oh, I don't think you do.
some of these search warrants could not be authenticated. I don't know what these documents were. I didn't read them, so I can't tell you that he was the author. Like what you presented, I can't speak to.
You just made my point. Even as the supervisor, you don't know everything that Michael Proctor was doing, do you?
No, it's impossible to know everything somebody was doing.
Got it. Especially the case officer on this case, as busy as he was, right?
I'm sorry?
Especially the case officer on this case, as busy as he was, Michael Proctor, right?
He was keeping us and his supervisors abreast of what was happening, the next step, the search warrants he was writing, the evidence that was being collected, the interviews that are being conducted, court dates and motions and stuff like that.
So he would do the work and then keep you, the word you just used, keep you abreast of that work.
Right, unless I was involved with the investigation myself. We did a ton of interviews together, as I authored some of these reports as well. I said there was 100+ reports.
Sir, you were notified on January 29th, 2022, that a Boston police officer was found gravely injured in front of 34 Fairview in the lawn, in the yard, correct?
No, that is not correct.
What were you notified of?
When the notification came in, it was that there was a male party found in the snowbank.
At some point, you learned that male party is John O'Keefe, a police officer, correct?
At some point, we did learn that he was a Boston police officer.
Matter of fact, you learned that morning. May not have been the first notification, but certainly early that morning, you knew that John O'Keefe was a Boston police officer.
At some point, we learned. I don't remember exactly when. If it was morning, just after 12, I don't know when, but we did learn that he was a Boston police officer.
And I'm not asking about what Trooper Proctor learned, but what you learned. You learned that he was a Boston police officer, correct?
At some point, I learned that he was a Boston police officer, yes.
And on January 29th, did you ever respond to 34 Fairview Road at any time?
On January 29th, 2022, at no point in time did I or Michael Proctor, who was with me the whole time, ever respond to 34 Fairview Road.
So the answer to my question, very simply, is no, right?
That's correct.
You just answered this question as well, but I want to make sure we're absolutely clear. Your Honor, may I approach? I don't want that guy here to be in this way. At no point on January 29th, 2022, did Michael Proctor respond to 34 Fairview either, did he?
No, he did not.
You already indicated and you described in some detail that Massachusetts State Police took over the investigation from Canton Police Department around 8 or 9 a.m., correct? Following certain protocols.
Yes, at some point in the morning, once it was determined that Mr. O'Keefe was gravely injured and was being transported to the hospital with no signs of life, and we were advised that he had an estimated 10% of survival rate, we engaged our services and responded to Canton Police to begin the investigation.
So the answer to that question is yes, correct?
Yes.
you'll often work with a local police agency, even though a police department, even though Massachusetts State Police may have statutory jurisdiction over the case because it's a homicide, right?
Yes, part of our mission is to aid and assist local police departments when they request it. In this specific situation, as I stated earlier, the DA's office has exclusive jurisdiction over death investigations, and our office has that responsibility of investigating those cases. But we work very well with local departments.
So the answer to that question is yes, correct?
Yes.
If you can answer my question yes or no, this will go a lot faster. In this case, even though you oftentimes work with local law enforcement agencies, it was determined that you would not continue working with Canton PD because of a conflict or the perception of a potential conflict of interest, correct?
To alleviate any perception, not that one existed, the Canton Police Department recused themselves from being involved in the interview portion of the investigation.
And that's in no small part because the lawn on which Mr. O'Keefe was found belongs to to Brian Albert, and Kevin Albert, Brian Albert's brother, worked as a detective at Canton Police Department, correct?
That was my understanding why they chose to take those steps.
Your first documented action in this case was to call the medical examiner's office. First documented action. Not the first thing you did, but the first thing that you documented that you did was to call the medical examiner's office at about 10:41 a.m., correct?
In what respect are you saying first documented action?
There's a report where we can look at the earliest thing that you did, and it's actually written down and documented. You know what I mean by documented? Written on a piece of paper.
In that respect of documentation, I would have to look into it. I believe there was something probably before that, since there was a documentation of us getting notified of the incident.
At 10:41, let me just ask it a little bit more straightforward if I can, to get to the point. At 10:41 a.m., you called the medical examiner's office to inform them that Mr. O'Keefe, quote, was struck in the face with a cocktail glass, or at least appeared to be, correct?
That is in part what I advised the medical examiner's office, where they are responsible for the medical portion of...
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach briefly?
Okay. All right, so Sergeant, I'm going to ask you to do your best to answer the question that's asked.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you contact the medical examiner's office in the morning of January 29th, 2022?
Yes.
And did you state to them that there was a possibility that the decedent, John O'Keefe, was struck in the face with a cocktail glass?
I don't recall my words exactly, but that sounds accurate to what I might have said.
At least your initial investigation during those early morning hours or those critical hours led you to believe at least that there was a possibility that there was a physical altercation, correct?
Yes.
What steps did you take at that moment to determine whether or not anybody in the house may have been involved in that physical altercation that you thought was a possibility?
That's a compound question. I have to answer it separately.
Answer it however you want to. It's an open-ended question, which is unlike me. What steps did you take to, at that moment, to determine whether or not anybody in the house could have been involved in that possible physical altercation that you just described?
We interviewed the homeowner and two witnesses that were in that house.
You never went into the house, did you? On January 29th, at least.
I personally did not go in the house.
You did not secure that house or remove the occupants, did you?
Which day?
January 29th. I'm talking about the morning of January 29th.
I did not know.
You did not secure the yard as a crime scene, correct?
That's correct.
You didn't conduct any search of that house.
No, I did not.
You didn't take any photographs of the interior of that house.
I did not.
You didn't ask a forensic criminalist to join you and process the house, correct?
That is correct.
You didn't set up a crime scene log to determine who is coming in and going out of the potential crime scene.
I did not.
No one actually documented the crime scene by taking contextual photographs and then close-up photographs, etc., during those early morning hours, correct?
I cannot speak to that. I was not there.
So the answer is you didn't do that, and you didn't cause that to be done.
I did not do that.
Crime Scene Services section, what is that?
It's a unit, specialized unit on the State Police. They are specially trained with documentation, photographs, video, latent fingerprints, footwear and tire impressions. They assist other investigators in documenting and processing scenes.
Did you contact CSSS to process the house or the yard or the area adjacent to the yard?
Which house, sir?
34 Fairview, Sergeant Bukhenik. Do you think I was talking about a different house?
Yes, I did.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Let's stick with 34 Fairview, where John O'Keefe's body was found. Did you call CSSS out to the scene to process that house?
I did not contact Crime Scene Services on January 29th to the area of 34 Fairview Road to the lawn where John O'Keefe's body was found.
You mentioned that you conducted interviews that day, correct?
That's correct.
Where were those interviews conducted?
The first interview was conducted at Canton Police Department. The second, third, and fourth were conducted at a residence in Canton. The fifth,
what was the first interview at Canton Police Department that morning?
Sergeant Good.
So other than Sergeant Good, I'm talking about civilian witnesses. You mentioned 3 civilian witnesses. Where were those 3 witnesses interviewed?
At a residence in Canton.
But not at 34 Fairview, just to be clear.
They were not at 34 Fairview, no.
They had been at 34 Fairview, though, hadn't they? All 3 of them.
Yes, they had.
As a matter of fact, Michael Proctor spoke to her at least one time while she was at 34 Fairview, correct?
I don't know.
Weren't you with Michael Proctor when he spoke to Jennifer McCabe?
Which time, sir?
The first time he called her to set up the interview that morning on January 29th.
I don't know where Jennifer McCabe was. I can't testify to that. I have no idea.
So if that call was made, if she talked about that call being made, that was made by Michael Proctor, not by outside of your presence.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. If there was a call made to Jennifer McCabe by Michael Proctor that morning, that was outside your presence.
Not necessarily. I just did not know where she was.
So the only 3 people you interviewed were Jennifer McCabe, Matt McCabe, and Brian Albert, correct?
Not correct.
Who else?
The defendant.
Other than Miss Reed, and before you got to Miss Reed, because you didn't get to Miss Reed till 3:34, correct? In the afternoon.
In the afternoon. I don't know exactly what time we began the conversation.
Right. I'm talking about in the morning when you were trying to figure out what was going on. You interviewed 3 people.
Yes, we did.
3 civilians.
At one point, we interviewed 3 civilians, the homeowner at 34 Fairview Road, and 2 witnesses that were with Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant the night prior, and then one of the witnesses that was with the defendant when Mr. O'Keefe was discovered.
And these are individuals that you made the assessment had either been with or shortly been with at the time or shortly before he was last seen alive, correct?
Based on the information that we had at that time, one of the individuals was with him right before he was seen alive, and the other two, one of the individuals was with him right before he was last seen alive, and two of the individuals saw the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe together.
And those same two individuals were also with Mr. O'Keefe just minutes before he was last seen alive. The waterfall, correct?
All three of the individuals were with Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant at Waterfall, yes.
And all three of the individuals were also at 34 Fairview when Mr. O'Keefe arrived. You had that information, didn't you?
We did not have information of Mr. O'Keefe arriving at the house. He was dropped off on the lawn.
And all three people, all three, were either named McCabe or Albert. Those are the few people that you had information from, correct?
Which information? We had information for a lot of different sources at that point in time.
I'm talking about the first three interviews that you did, the first three civilian interviews you did that morning. Still on the same thing. You mentioned talking to three people at a residence in Canton. Brian Albert, Jim McCabe, Matt McCabe. Mm-hmm. All three were at 34 Fairview when they indicated John O'Keefe arrived in an SUV. They all told you that, right?
They were inside the home when the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe arrived in the SUV.
These are the very people that would have a motive to lie if they were somehow involved, right?
Can you answer that, Sergeant?
No, Your Honor.
You're a professional investigator, correct?
That's correct.
Homicide investigator, right?
That's correct.
Many years of experience, right? Is that yes?
I don't know what many means to you,
No,
but
of course not. Let me how many years of experience do you have?
in homicide,
Correct.
10 next week.
Okay. Does that sound like many?
I didn't answer the first time because I don't know what you would think many is.
Right. Suspects ever lied to you?
Yes.
Suspects lie to you all the time, don't they?
All the time is not accurate. They lie about certain things to create an alibi for themselves and state contradicting facts or fabricated stories.
And if someone
all the
has
time would mean that they're constantly lying about everything.
you understand the colloquialism all the time?
I
Suspects.
do not know the term colloquialism.
Okay, let's try it a different way. If these three individuals were involved in the death of John O'Keefe, or knew others who were involved in the death of John O'Keefe, who they were close to, they would have a motive to lie about that, correct?
Objection.
But you took these three individuals just at their word, based on those first three interviews, correct?
No, not correct.
You didn't go in the house. You didn't search the house. We've already talked about that, right?
I did not go into 34 Fairview. No, I did not.
You didn't ask them to come with you down to the station, correct?
That's correct. I did not ask them to come to the station.
As a matter of fact, when you went to interview Jennifer McCabe at her home, Brian Albert happened to be there, correct?
He was there, and I was able to conduct the interview at the house with Brian Albert, yes.
Did you find that odd?
Absolutely not.
Totally normal for you to conduct a formal interview in a homicide case and have an extra person show up at the house just to be there?
Absolutely. Cooperating witnesses always try and be assisting, so cooperating witnesses would assist us.
You just use the word always. You don't know what all the time means. Did they always try to be assistant?
Well, they're cooperating. It's in the nature.
They always try to be.
Okay, maybe I misspoke. They are cooperating witnesses. So always is such a finite, definitive statement. I apologize for using it.
And if an investigator were keeping an open mind, right, open to all possibilities at the beginning of the investigation, someone that you now are calling a cooperating witness might well be a suspect who's lying, correct?
Yes.
That's a possibility.
That is a possibility, yes.
I want to shift gears for a second, Sergeant Bukhenik, and ask you about some of the physical evidence in the case. You and Mr. Proctor collected the gray sweatshirt and the orange T-shirt that we saw entered into evidence today, correct?
That's correct.
You talked about finding that evidence at Good Samaritan Hospital, is that right?
That is where it was seized from, yes.
You described it as being on the floor, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Where on the floor was it when you first saw it? Was it on the hospital floor, not the ambulance floor, correct?
When I first saw it, it was on the hospital floor, correct?
All right. Coach.
Yes.
Take a look at that photograph, please.
Yes.
Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
It's one of the photographs taken from Mr. O'Keefe's emergency department room.
Do you recognize the shirt or shirts that you earlier described as being in that photograph?
There is an orange shirt depicted on the floor to the left side, yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask that be marked and entered into evidence. No objection.
Okay.
Well, that's being marked when we approach very briefly. Your Honor, with permission, may I publish?
Yes.
Sergeant Bukhenik, this is Exhibit 110. You just mentioned seeing an orange shirt. Do you have a laser pointer with you? If you don't, I can grab you one.
I do.
Can you point for the jurors where you were describing the orange? Just pick whichever TV you want to use. May I approach?
Yes.
This is it.
It did, yes.
That's a piece. That should work. Just tell me which TV you're going to look at so the jurors understand and can follow.
I'll do the one to my right so the jurors can see. There is something orange right there on the floor.
Does that appear to be on top of something darker?
It does appear to be on top of possibly a darker item of clothing, possibly the jeans. I'm not sure exactly from here what that is.
Do you believe, as you sit here, and I'm asking it open because I don't know what the answer is. Do you believe, as you sit here, that that's the orange shirt and or the gray sweatshirt and or the jeans?
If we can zoom in, I could probably pick out the pattern. So from here, it looks like it's a cut fabric, indicating that it most likely is the orange shirt. The jeans, you can see the belt loop through the jeans on the left side. I would say that is Mr. O'Keefe's clothing that we picked up and bagged.
Okay, if you could unzoom that for me. One more question. You see Mr. O'Keefe's left leg and right leg from about the little lower than mid-thigh down, correct?
Mid thigh down. I see his legs, yes.
Okay, you see his right knee.
The interior portion of it, yes.
Okay, do you see any scrapes or marks or cuts or abrasions on that right knee?
Not from this point, no.
Thank you, we can take that down. May I approach?
Yes.
Oh, the laser point? Which one? I think it's this one. They're both the same.
I have one more question on that photo. Sorry about that. Can we display the photo one more time, Ms. Johnson? We don't need to turn the lights off. Take a look to the left. Could you zoom in on the chair? Do you see that item sitting on the chair, Sergeant?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
That is either mine or Michael Proctor's notepad binder.
Thank you. We can take that down. Concerning the two shirts that you earlier testified to as being sopping wet, did you bag those shirts? Well, did you bag those shirts, or did Michael Proctor bag those shirts?
We bagged them together. If my memory is not failing me, I believe he picked it up and I held the bag open. But I could be wrong. Maybe I picked it up and he held the bag open.
That's fine. The two of you together got them in a bag.
Yes.
Was it a paper bag or a plastic bag?
It was a large paper bag, the size of like a lawn leaf bag you would get for disposing your yard waste.
Okay. Is it specifically an evidence bag, or was it something that y'all came up with on the spot?
It's a bag that was provided by Crime Scene Services.
Okay. So it's an official law enforcement type bag. What, a grocery bag?
It was not a grocery bag. It was a large bag.
Okay, understood. Did both shirts go in the same bag?
All the clothing items that were in the pile went into the same bag.
Does that include the jeans and belt and boxer shorts?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. You went from Good Samaritan, straight to Dighton, correct?
Yes.
And you are the one that put the bag in your the super cab of your pickup truck?
Yes.
And then from Dighton, you went over to Canton PD, is that right?
Yes, we did.
And then from Canton PD, ultimately, before the night was out, you ended up back at the Norfolk DA's office, which is where you and Michael Proctor officed at the time, correct?
Yes.
When exactly, if you recall, did you lay out the clothing? You indicated it was sopping wet. You laid it out on a butcher paper. When was that?
It was during the evening hours once we arrived to the Canton office.
It was about 10 p.m., I'm guessing?
No, it was before that.
It was before 10?
Yes.
Yeah, just a moment.
Yes.
Sergeant, I just want to get the record as clear as possible. Did you testify at a hearing last year, at a proceeding last year here in this courtroom, that it was about 10 o'clock at night when you finally got the clothing laid out on the butcher paper?
Based on the context on the question, I might have estimated to be around 10. I would have to take a look at the exact language being used.
That's good. I'm not trying to hold you to anything. I just want to make sure we get it as clear as possible. May I approach?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sergeant, does that refresh your recollections to about the time that you ended up at the office to lay out those items on the butcher paper?
That refreshes my memory to my testimony prior.
And that was about your prior testimony. It was about 10 p.m.
When asked about what time the items were laid out, I indicated previously it was 10 o'clock approximately.
You didn't stay there all night with those clothes.
No, I did not.
You left the clothes with Michael Proctor, did you not?
I can't testify to leaving them, quote unquote, with Michael Proctor. We laid them out together in the drying area on the butcher paper. And then at some point, I secured from the office. I don't have a memory if he left with me or if he remained to do additional tasks in the office to, you know.
You indicated that those clothes stayed in that room starting on January 29th, 2022, so that they could dry, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Ultimately, they were bagged after they were dried, correct?
At some point they were, yes.
Who had access to that room where they were laid out on butcher paper in those intervening, those subsequent days?
Anyone that had access to the office with a proper key card authorization would have access to that area.
Of course, that includes you as a supervisor, correct?
It does.
It also includes Michael Proctor.
It does.
And those items were bagged on February 4th. Is that right?
I don't have a specific memory, but if you can show me a document suggesting that and supporting that statement, I will definitely look at it.
So I think while we're looking for this piece of paper, you remember looking at the bag that the clothing items were in. At this point, was the jeans.
Earlier today, sir?
Yes.
I do remember looking at the bag, yes.
Okay, and the bag has a label on it, obviously, that's generated when items are bagged?
It has multiple labels, yes.
Okay. Did you see the label today that it indicated it was bagged on February 4th?
I didn't pay attention to it, no.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
If you could take a look at those 3 pages briefly, that's a colloquy that may refresh your recollection.
I don't know what the colloquy means. Can you?
The back and forth conversation.
I see.
May I approach?
Yes.
So, did reviewing that document refresh your recollection as to the date that those items were ultimately bagged and labeled?
Yes, based on the tag on the bag, when I previously looked at it, it appears that the tag was printed on 2/4/22.
And that would be consistent with the time that the items are actually placed in the bag?
I don't know that to be true.
Because you didn't place them in the bag, Trooper Proctor did, correct? I'm sorry, former Trooper Proctor did.
I don't know who placed them in the bag.
But it wasn't you.
It was not me, no.
But the case officer, Mr. Proctor, had access to that room and was taking control over those clothing items for those 6 days that they were drying on the butcher paper, correct?
That's not necessarily correct. It could have been the evidence officers bagging the evidence once it's dried and processing it. I highly doubt Trooper Proctor had access to the beast machine to print that label.
Right. I'm not asking if he printed the label. I'm asking if he bagged the item and walked it up to the evidence locker and the label was printed up there.
Again, I don't know who bagged the items.
That would be normal protocol, though, correct?
Somebody else bagging the items?
No, the case officer bagging the items. He's the one that seized it along with you. He laid them out on the butcher paper along with you. He would be the one to gather them up. I mean, the evidence officer's not going to come down there and do that without the case officer knowing, correct?
Not necessarily. The evidence officer's responsibility is to handle the evidence, so I don't know who handled the evidence that day.
How would the evidence officer know to go down there? How would he know that there were clothing items being laid out to dry on butcher paper unless the case officer told him?
They would walk by it every day and see it. That's their workstation. So
Right.
They would know that, hey, this evidence is drying. There's only 4 detectives in the office at that time working on this case. We communicate daily, so they would know that, hey, it's dried. Let's bag it up.
Well, that's a lot of speculation, especially from the supervisor, literally, who just said, I have no idea. They're not communicating with you or them.
I was giving you an explanation of what could have happened.
Right. Speculation about what could have happened, right?
Well, I certainly did not bag that item.
Right. But your best estimate would be knowing the protocols at the MSP and in your unit would be the case officer who's controlling the items of evidence, would have bagged it and submitted it into the evidence locker.
I do not know who bagged it.
So for 6 days, anybody who had access to that room could have handled that clothing in any way they wanted to.
That's correct.
And that includes former Trooper Michael Proctor.
That's correct.
Do you have any kind of log to document what was happening or who was handling those items of clothing during that 6-day period before it was bagged into evidence? Any kind of log?
I don't have a document logging the clothing laying out there. It was documented in reports and processing, I believe. But
Have you ever seen a log? And I'm talking about a report after the fact. I'm talking about a log, goes on log, indicating who may have come in and handled or touched or manipulated those clothes in that 6-day span of time before the fact.
I have never seen a log like that, no.
The fact is, we don't have a single document establishing the chain of custody for those items between January 29th and February 4th. That's correct, isn't it?
That is absolutely not correct.
Where's the where's the log or the document logging what happened to it?
We seized the clothing. It was in our possession. It was transferred for processing.
Sergeant, I'm asking you about a log, a written piece of paper, something that looks like this. It's got writing on it that logs the item between January 29th and February 4th. That doesn't exist, does it?
We did not create a log to document the documentation, so it'd be redundant, really.
You indicated on direct examination that you personally participated in 2 searches at 34 Fairview, one on February 4th, one on February 10th. Is that right?
That is not right.
What did I get wrong?
I was also there on the 3rd, 4th, and 10th.
Who did you go with on the 3rd?
That was Trooper DeChico, Michael Proctor, and I conducting the first excavation.
And about what time was that?
It was during the morning hours. I think earlier I said it was somewhere between 8:39, 9:30. I could have been half an hour later. I'm not exactly positive on the exact time we began the excavation.
And the other 2 searches were the next day, February 4th, and then February 10th.
The next time I was at Fairview Road and involved in a collection of evidence was on the 4th, when Canton PD documented a 1 piece and I collected, and then the 10th.
Was anything recovered on February, let's take them in order, on February 3rd?
Yes, Mr. O'Keefe's hat, straw, I believe red and clear plastic taillight pieces. Those are the items that were recovered.
That's on the 3rd. Okay, what about the 4th?
The 4th was the red taillight piece that we displayed, I believe, that Canton PD notified me of when I was already en route there.
When you say Canton PD, who was it that notified you, if you remember?
There was, at the scene, there was Chief Berkowitz, a couple of detectives.
Sergeant Lank, does that sound right?
I do not know. I can't say yes or no. I don't recall specifically. It was raining hard, so I grabbed the item and left.
Okay. Did you write a report? I'm gonna combine these into all 3 dates together. Did you write any report? Actually, I won't do that. Let me ask them individually. Did you write any report about your search on the 3rd?
Somebody authored a report. I'm not sure.
I'm asking about you.
I can't. There's over 100 reports. I'd have to take a look which report documents my activity that day.
Do you remember, as you sit here, authoring a report about your conduct or your activity on February 4th, the next day?
I don't have a memory of it, no.
Do you have a memory of authoring a report yourself about your conduct on February 10th, your activity on February 10th?
I don't have a memory of it. It could have happened. I just don't have a memory.
The reality, Sergeant, is that no report was written about any of these searches until November 4th, 2023. Correct?
That could be possible, yes.
So literally the documentation of these 3 searches about which you've testified today, the documentation did not exist until, what is that math, 17, 18 months later?
That is not true. Each bag that the evidence went into was documented, the time, location, who recovered it, where it was recovered, and brief description of the items that were recovered from the scene.
And by the way, we're going to get to that in a second, the evidence bags. A report is designed to memorialize exactly what happens, when it happens, why it happened, who was there, what time it happened, things of that nature, correct?
That is one of the purposes, or some of the purposes behind the report, absolutely. Yes.
And the report in this case that documented these 3 searches involving you, Trooper Proctor, I think Trooper DeChico, even Canton PD officers, there was no memorialization in a report until nearly 18 months later. Is that right?
It's possible, yeah. We write reports at different times. Yeah.
I want to ask you about this February 4th visit to the crime scene. You indicated that sometime in the morning, 8:45, 9 a.m., something like that, you responded?
On the 4th, sir?
On the 4th.
I was driving to work, so I would have to say 8:45 or so. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the exact timestamp, but if you know, if you have something to refresh my memory, I could tell you if that's accurate.
I'm not going to hold you to the exact time. It was in the morning on the 4th.
It was.
All right. Did you know Chief of Police Ken Berkowitz before you responded on the 4th to 34 Fairview?
Yes, I knew who he was. I had met him previously, and he was present on the 29th when the vehicle was delivered to the Sally Port.
He was actually in the Sally Port, at least at some time, when the vehicle was delivered, correct?
He was there at some point. I had a conversation with him.
Okay. Tall guy, short guy?
Chief Berkowitz was a shorter guy.
Okay. Do you know who Brian Higgins is?
I do.
What's your relationship with Brian Higgins? Or what was it? I should be more pointed to this, Sergeant. What was your relationship back in 2022, January 2022?
Brian Higgins was a federal agent, and I crossed paths with him on a couple of investigations, strictly professional relationship, a federal agent and a state trooper.
So not a personal relationship, more of a professional relationship.
Correct.
Did you know him to have a personal relationship with Chief Berkowitz?
I did not know.
Didn't Brian Higgins actually tell you and Michael Proctor in an interview that he had a personal relationship with Chief Berkowitz? He called him one of his better friends. Okay. Sure. During the course of your investigation, did you learn, although you may not have personal knowledge of it, did you learn that Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz had some sort of a personal relationship?
If you show me a report stating that, I would like to take a look. If it's written in a report authored by me or that I approved, I will take it for to be fact.
As you sit here now, you don't have a memory of that conversation with Brian Higgins?
Do I have a memory of having a conversation with him
No,
and him sharing that information with me?
That's it.
I don't have a memory of him sharing that information, but if you have a report that was authored by me or Michael Proctor or any trooper in our office that says that, I will take it as gospel and testify to it.
Okay. Well, I don't want to take up the time to look for it. We'll put our hands on that. But in the meantime, let me ask you a few other questions. You were contacted and told to respond to 34 Fairview because Chief Berkowitz had been driving by and saw something while he was driving by, correct?
On which day, sir?
February 4th.
I'm sorry?
February 4th.
Yes. He indicated he was driving by and saw a piece of potential evidence.
And he was driving by in a car at speed, correct?
I would take that to be factual. I mean, if he's driving by, I would take it to be in a car
And
at speed.
did you question Chief Berkowitz about, by the way, about how old was Chief Berkowitz when you met him out at 34 Fairview in 2022?
How old?
How old? Estimate. Was he in his 50s, 60s, 70s?
I have no idea how old Chief Berkowitz was.
He indicated to you that he was driving by and saw a small piece of red taillight from his car. Is that right? Objection. He indicated to you that he was driving by and saw a red something from his car, correct? Objection. Did you question Chief Berkowitz after you learned this information about him driving by? Did you question Chief Berkowitz about how he could possibly see a piece of red plastic from his car?
No.
Did you question Chief Berkowitz about why he was driving by 34 Fairview in the first place?
No.
Did you question Chief Berkowitz about the fact that his department had been conflicted from the case, at least in part, because of a, as you put it, a perceived, or possible perception of a conflict of interest?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question, please?
Did you question Chief Berkowitz about whether or not he was aware that there was a conflict of interest between Canton PD and this investigation?
No, I didn't question, no.
Did you think that was important at the time to talk to him about that conflict of interest?
No.
Because just days earlier, Sergeant, the Canton Police Department had in fact recused himself from interviews because of a potential conflict of interest.
To prevent any perceived conflict of interest, they recused themselves from being involved in interviews. I wasn't pairing up with Chief Berkowitz to interview the taillight piece. I mean, I don't.
No, I didn't figure that you were going to interview the taillight piece. We all get the comment. I'm trying to get to a point. 3 or 4 days after, 5 days after, 6 days after, Canton PD recuses itself from the investigation, parts of the investigation, because of the perceived conflict of interest. The brother of the homeowner being a detective, the chief of that department drives by in a car and supposedly sees a piece of plastic.
I'm sorry?
I object. Was your understanding, at least at the time, that the whole purpose of the recusal was so there would not be a perception of a conflict of interest? To avoid that?
I didn't give it much thought of the understanding why there was a recusal. I was told that they're not going to conduct interviews with us, and me being on the mission of conducting this investigation, assisting with this investigation, collecting evidence, I just knew that I needed more manpower. And the Canton Police, being, having recused themselves, weren't going to be available to provide that manpower to conduct interviews.
and yet it was the chief of that very department that was standing out in front of 34 Fairview when you pulled up that morning.
With his detectives, they were at the location. They weren't standing outside. They were in their vehicles because it was raining really heavily.
Well,
Can we end at this?
we can, Your Honor. Sure. May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, Sergeant.
Good morning, sir.
Yesterday, when we left off, we had been discussing one of the trips you made out to 34 Fairview, specifically on an occasion in which you met Chief Berkowitz. I want to ask you a couple of questions to follow up on those questions that I asked yesterday. Did Chief Berkowitz ever talk to you about his communications with Brian Albert and or Brian Higgins, either at that time or afterward?
Objection.
Did you learn that Chief Berkowitz had communicated one way or the other, without telling me anything that they said? Did you learn whether or not Chief Berkowitz had communicated with Brian Higgins?
No.
Did you learn that Chief Berkowitz had communicated with Brian Albert? And I'm talking about in the days before you were at 34 Fairview, which was February 4th, from the 29th to February 4th.
No.
You returned to the scene, you indicated on direct examination, on or about February 10th, 2022, to conduct yet another search, correct?
Yes.
And on that particular occasion, you recovered some 6 pieces of red and or clear and or black plastic. Is that how you testified?
There was numerous pieces. The exact number, I don't know. You'd have to refresh my memory with a report.
Okay. There were several pieces. The exact number, I'm not really worried about. There were several. There was more than one.
Yes.
Okay. There were also some clear glass pieces, correct?
Again, I don't know exactly, but if a report can be presented, it would refresh my memory.
Okay. Let's do that real quick. So you can actually let me front page that so just familiarize yourself with it.
Thank you.
Let me know when you familiarize yourself with that report. May I approach, Your Honor? Yes. Thank you. Sergeant, did you have an opportunity to take a look at this report?
I did.
Did that refresh your recollection as to the items generally that you recovered on February 10th?
Yes, I did.
Did you recover approximately 6 pieces of red, black, and clear plastic and 14 pieces of glass and plastic fragments?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You would obviously consider that to be an incredibly important part of the investigation, recovering physical items at the scene of the incident, correct?
Every piece of evidence is important.
Can you describe for the jurors exactly where each of the, let's take them one at a time, where each of the 6 pieces of plastic fragments were found?
All items recovered that day were found in the general vicinity where the other items were also located. The area had been excavated. I've been to that location several times, and it was all located in the general vicinity where it was initially excavated, but also where I was told Mr. John O'Keefe was found on the morning of January 29th, 2022.
So, other than saying in the general vicinity, did you seek to actually document where each item was found? In other words, by cross coordinates or some other such manner?
The exact location where each item was recovered from was not documented with a picture or GPS location. It was still within the general vicinity of that 40 to 50 square feet or so, by my approximation, near the flagpole, between the street, the flagpole, and the fire hydrant. It was all the same general vicinity.
So 40 to 50 square feet would be 10 foot by 5 foot square, correct?
Generally speaking, 50, yeah, 5 by 10, general area.
If I may, Your Honor, if I may have proceed, would you agree with me? I'm not going to pull out a measuring tape. Would you agree I'm about 10 feet from you right now?
I would agree with you, yes.
Okay. And from the jury bar, probably about 5 feet from there.
Yes.
So we're talking about a relatively broad area for small pieces of physical evidence to be found. You would agree with that?
I would, again, estimate it was the general area, maybe 10 feet in one direction, 10 feet in another, and 5 feet out, maybe 3 feet out. They were the general area where it was initially excavated and then expanded with the snow melting, and all the pieces were within that general area.
But you were working on an assumption at that point, on an assumption that there was some sort of an impact at 3430, correct?
I don't understand what you're asking.
You were working on an assumption or a presumption that there was an impact of a physical angle, in your view, an SUV, with a human being, correct? That was your presumption at the time.
The evidence was pointing that impact took place because there was damage to the taillight. Large chunks of it was missing, and we were locating pieces that were consistent with texture, color, and size fragments from that SUV on the lawn. So I wasn't assuming anything. The evidence was speaking to us.
You weren't there, correct?
I was there recovering the evidence, yes.
You weren't there at the time of the incident.
No, of course not.
So you were utilizing assumptions and presumptions based on information that was provided to you. Yes or no?
We work by learning information, collecting evidence, and getting that evidence to suggest what happened. That evidence is tested, and then it's all put together into the case.
You used the word to suggest what happened, correct?
Yes.
Another word for a suggestion is if something is suggested to you, you then receive it and assume certain things based on that suggestion.
What we do with suggestions, we corroborate them. A witness statement is, I guess you can say, a suggestion, and then we corroborate it through evidence.
And of course, you make assumptions based on those suggestions, correct? Yes or no?
We have theories.
Another term for a theory is an assumption or a presumption, correct?
I guess in some respect you can say that,
Okay.
but I'm not going to argue about semantics here.
Well, you'll agree that words matter, right? I mean, you're testifying, so words do matter.
Words do matter. That's important.
So, working off of your, as you put it, your theory, you theorized that there was an impact spot at 3430, correct?
Based on the statement I hit him, I assumed that Mr. O'Keefe was impacted with something. Initial hours of the investigation, we had those statements, I hit him. We had the statements that, oh my God, did I hit him? So utilizing that information with the evidence at that point that we had was a broken cocktail glass. So a theory would be, why is the cocktail glass broken? Because it came into contact with the victim. So that's why my information communicated to the ME's office was a possible domestic involving a glass strike to the victim. As a result, we had to go and see the victim's body and the injuries. So Mr. O'Keefe's injuries presented a certain way, and we learned more information. So the more information that comes in, the more information that we are able to corroborate statements and collect evidence that further corroborates other information is helpful in the investigation. That's how investigations develop. If we knew everything we knew from day one, there wouldn't be a process of developing investigation.
So the answer to my question Sergeant, is you were working off of a theory, correct? Yes or no?
We were working off a report of an injured male party, and then we developed the information, collected the evidence, and developed the investigation.
Do you know what the word theory means?
I'm sorry, English is like a third language for me, so if you can bring up the Webster's Dictionary, I can read it out.
You want to pull up the Webster's Dictionary? You want to take a break real quick and pull up the Webster's Dictionary to define a word that you used in an answer about 40 seconds ago? We're working off of a theory, quote unquote. You said it, not me. You want me to go get a dictionary so we can figure out for the jurors what that word means?
Objection.
All right, sustained. Let's move along, please.
You would agree with me, Sergeant Bukhenik, that if your theory was that there was an impact, the site of that impact would be incredibly important, correct?
Very important, yes.
And on February 10th, you went out to the scene and you indicate that you found 6 pieces of black, clear, and red plastic material and 14 pieces of glass material and some other plastic material as well, correct?
Yes.
You didn't photograph it? Is that
No,
right?
I did not.
You didn't do any plotting of cross coordinates, which would have been easy to do to determine exactly where each piece was found, correct?
It would not be easy for me. I don't know how to do that.
You've never learned how to plot cross coordinates?
I don't have the tools to GPS coordinate an item.
You take 2 points that are stable. You know what cross coordinates are? Take 2 points that are stable, like for instance, I don't know, let's pick something, like a flagpole that doesn't move. And you draw a line, pull a string directly over the item that you find. Then you take another stable item that's perpendicular to that, pull that straight, put it down. That's exactly, you measure the distance between the two, that's exactly where that item, where those 2 strings cross, that's exactly where that item's found. That's cross coordinates, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
You ever heard of that?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know what cross coordinates are?
No.
Do you know how to plot cross coordinates?
You just demonstrated to me.
Does that sound reasonable and easy?
What you explained sounds easy, yes.
And you didn't do that.
I did not.
You also didn't, by the way, you had your cell phone when you went out there on February 10th, correct?
I would assume so, yes.
Your cell phone has a camera built into it, correct?
Yes, it does.
You indicated on direct examination you didn't think it was necessary to call out a forensic photographer to photograph and photo document where these items were found. Is that right?
That's right.
But you could have pulled your cell phone out and taken photographs of them, right?
I guess I could have, yes.
But you didn't do any coordinates and you didn't take any photos.
I did not know.
Can you show us a report that memorializes where you supposedly recovered these items?
Yes, the report you showed me, number 83, that documents that they were all recovered at 34 Fairview Road.
Right. So that's correct. There's a report after the fact that establishes that they were recovered generally at 34 Fairview Road on February 10th. But is there a report that describes exactly where on the property at 34 Fairview or off the property at 34 Fairview these 20 items were found? That's a question. I'm waiting.
Oh, I didn't realize. But
Do you need me to repeat the question?
Was there a question? Go ahead, please.
Sure. Is there a report that documents exactly where at 34 Fairview on the property these 20-odd items were found exactly?
The report documenting where they were recovered from is number 83 that you've just presented. The exact location is the same general vicinity. If it was something different, if we located these items across the street, different section of the yard, that would have been documented.
What's documented in the report that you just referenced says bullet point 2/10/22, meaning February 10/22 at 9:15 a.m. Sergeant Bukhenik secured 6 pieces of red, black, and clear plastic, period. That's what it says, right?
The same general vicinity. If there was a different
That's
location.
what the report says, isn't it? That's all I'm asking. That's what the report says, what I just quoted.
That's the description of the items.
So the answer is yes. That's what the report says.
That is part of the report. That is the description of the items recovered on that date.
And the bullet point beneath that says February 10th, 2022 at 9:15 a.m., Sergeant Bukhenik secured 14 pieces of glass and plastic fragments. Correct?
That's correct.
There is no further description of where those items were found, is there?
There is.
Where's the report with the further description of exactly where they were found?
It might not be in the report. It might be on the description of the bag, describing that it was 34 Fairview Road. The report indicates and encompasses itself where those items were recovered from. Clearly, the same general vicinity the initial items were recovered from. If there was a need to document a different location, it would have happened.
But you didn't see the need to document the exact coordinates where those items were found, did you? You didn't see the need.
It did not happen.
Can I approach you?
Yes.
Take a look at that photograph. Tell me if you recognize it. What's depicted in it?
Yes, I do.
What's depicted in that photograph, just generally?
It's the side of evidence bag that the items were secured in. It documents the case number, the date, time, who recovered it, and general description of the 6 pieces of red, black, and clear plastic recovered from 34 Fairview Road in Canton.
I'd like to have that marked and move it out of the job.
Is there any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 111.
You indicated that the evidence bag would help determine where the exact location was that these items were found, correct?
The general location where they were recovered from.
Will you publish this, Your Honor?
Okay.
Does this look like the photograph that you were just reviewing?
Yes, it does.
That's just been marked as evidence?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Will, can we make that a little larger so it's more legible? Can you read that from where you are?
I can.
Moving past the date, moving on to the date. What date is that?
Date collected is 2/10/22.
So that's the date that we've been talking about, correct?
That is correct.
And this indicates collected by, and who's that?
That's myself, Sergeant Buchanan.
Description of evidence. This is where the description of the evidence is located on this evidence bag, correct?
General description identifying what's inside.
And what is that description?
6 pieces of red, black, and clear plastic.
And that's all it says about the description, correct?
Yes.
And it indicates location where collected. And there's several lines that are available to fill in, correct?
Correct.
On that first line, what does that read?
34 Fairview Road, Canton, MA.
And that's it, correct?
That's all that was put, yes.
And you didn't fill this bag out, did you?
No, I did not.
Who did?
I do not know.
Who did?
I don't know.
You don't recognize the handwriting?
No, I do not.
You don't recognize the handwriting of your partner and subordinate, Michael Proctor?
Objection.
Sustained.
Are you aware that Michael Proctor filled this out?
Objection.
Were you with Michael Proctor when this was bagged?
No, I was not. I was by myself.
Did you give the items of evidence to Michael Proctor, to bag?
No, I did not.
Who did you give it to bag?
I bagged it myself.
Whose handwriting is that?
I do not know.
If you bagged it yourself, why didn't you fill out the evidence envelope?
I bagged it and turned it over, and I told him exactly where it was and what time, so someone else wrote the information.
You just said, I bagged it and told him.
Turned it over.
No, sir. No, sir. What you just said was, I bagged it and turned it over to him. And you don't know who it is that you turned it over to? Who's the him?
Turned it over to them.
Who's
them?
Okay.
Whoever wrote it. Whoever wrote it.
So we're just in a circle here. We can turn the lights
Objection
out.
to the commentary.
So, Mr. Jackson, no comments, okay? Just
Understood.
questions.
I apologize. Ignore my last comment. You had items of evidence that you've already described as being incredibly important, correct?
Those are your words. I actually changed. I said every piece of evidence is important.
Okay. Since this is part of every piece of evidence, do you think this evidence was important?
Every piece of evidence is important.
So was this evidence important? Yes or no?
Yes.
So you had the evidence and turned it over to someone who you don't know and can't identify. Is that what we understand?
It was a member of the Massachusetts State Police assigned to our office. It wasn't just a random person. I can't specifically identify who it was or who wrote on that bag. I know it was a trusted member of our unit and part of the investigative team.
How do you know it was a trusted member of your unit and a part of your investigative team if you can't tell these jurors who it was? How do you know that?
Because I wouldn't have turned it over to a random stranger.
Okay, so let's figure out the possibilities. Who were among those to whom you would have turned this stuff over? Who were among them?
There was 4 troopers in the detective unit at that point assigned to homicide.
Let's name them. Who are they?
It was Trooper DeChico, Trooper Kakowski, Trooper Dunn, and Trooper Mike Proctor.
As you sit here today, do you believe or do you recall turning it over to Trooper Dunn?
Objection.
We're going to go through each person?
Every one of them. There's only 4.
I'll allow this question.
You remember turning it over to Trooper Dunn?
No.
You remember turning it over to Trooper Kakowski?
No.
You remember turning it over to Trooper DeChico?
No.
You remember turning it over to Michael Proctor?
No.
So it might have been just a random stranger. Right?
That's a ridiculous suggestion.
Have you ever seen Trooper Proctor's handwriting before?
Yes.
Matter of fact, you've seen it, I'm guessing, not dozens, maybe hundreds of times, right?
Not hundreds of times, no.
Dozens of times
Sure.
over the years.
Sure.
On evidence bags, on logs, on notes, things of that nature.
Some evidence bags, some notes.
May I approach you, Honor?
Yes.
Can you take a look at that document and tell me if you recognize it?
The whole thing or just the front page?
No, just look through and tell me if you recognize generally what that is.
It appears to be a bunch of handwritten notes from possibly witness interviews.
Handwritten notes by whom?
Well, you labeled it Proctor. I don't know who it is based on the individuals interviewed. You might suggest that these are Michael Proctor's notes.
Okay, so you're testifying that I labeled that Proctor?
I don't know.
Right, so you don't know.
Well, you provided the document to me, so.
Right, I know. And then you just testified that I labeled that Proctor. How do you know I labeled that Proctor?
Well, I got it from you.
You didn't see me write that note.
Objection.
Sustained. Questions, please.
Sure. That appears to be Michael Proctor, a series of Michael Proctor's notes, correct?
That's what's suggested, yes.
Okay. In terms of the first tab, is it a local tab?
Some of these came off.
It's fine. I'm just interested in the purple tab. Do you see a series of handwritten notes from Michael Proctor? Not worried about the content.
Sure. These,
Highlight?
yes.
What's the word that's handwritten in that highlight?
Objection.
So why don't we come to sidebar with this guy, please?
In the ordinary course of business, is it normal standard operating procedure that the person who recovers items of evidence fills out the evidence bag contemporaneous to the recovery of the item?
It's possible you can do that if there's a reason that you have to leave, an emergency or weather conditions you can't write on the bag. You can fill it out later if you have the time and you know where you recovered it from, which is like, in this instance, if it was a general vicinity where all the other fragments of evidence was collected from, it's known that it was within the general area of that section of the lawn near the flagpole between the street and the flagpole and the fire hydrant. So it's...
The person that filled out that evidence envelope wasn't with you.
Well, I passed that information along to them.
I see. So now it's hearsay information that's being passed along to someone else to fill out the envelope.
Objection.
Christine.
It's secondhand, let's use that word, secondhand information to the person who's filling out the evidence envelope, correct?
No, it's firsthand information. I passed that along to them.
So it went from you to a person filling out the envelope who wasn't there. Let's at least agree on it.
I was by myself, so yes, I told the individual what time, what location, the case number, the date, obviously.
How do you know? How do you know that you told the individual to whom you passed this along the time, the location, the date? How do you know that as you sit here?
Because that information was then put on the bag and documented.
But you can't even remember who you talked to.
I do not remember specifically who I talked to, no.
If you can't remember who you talked to, you don't remember what you said. Goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
That's not true. I might not remember now, but the day that it was bagged on February 10th, 2022, I remembered. And that's what the accurate, detailed information is on the bag.
A bag you didn't fill out, correct?
That's correct.
And information provided to someone you can't remember.
Today I can't remember, no.
You're aware that that particular bag, that evidence bag, was not booked until March 14, 2022, correct?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Those pieces of evidence were never booked into evidence until March 14th, 2022.
Those particular pieces of evidence were collected on February 10th, 2022.
Sergeant Bukhenik, do you know the difference between collecting a piece of evidence and booking it into evidence? Creating a booking label, creating an evidence log, things of that nature? Do you know the difference?
I understand the difference, yes,
Okay.
but you claiming that it wasn't booked into something doesn't mean that it wasn't properly handled in custody and under our control.
Sir, I'm not claiming anything. You're testifying. I'm asking questions. Was it booked into evidence on February 10th?
If you show me a document, I can tell you what
Sure.
it might be suggesting.
You can take a look at those two documents and tell me whether or not you recognize them. Okay. I'm going to leave those up there with you. Does one of those appear to be the log sheet for the crime lab?
One is a chain of custody report for the crime lab of all the evidence that was processed, received, processed, and returned. Yes.
And the other document?
The other document is simply a receipt of evidence being submitted on a certain day to the lab.
And both of those documents indicate that the first time the evidence was submitted to the crime lab was March 14th, 2022, correct?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
I will have to take a look. It's going to be some time, please.
Well, you can look at the top. Well, let me ask you, ask it in question form. If you look through the log, it's in chronological order, the chain of custody log, correct?
By item, I believe, but I didn't take a deep dive into it. I have to take a look.
Right. Do you see any item, especially focusing on item 712 or items 712, do you see any item being booked into the crime lab before March 14th, 2022?
All right, I'll take a look.
Did that refresh your recollection as to when the items were booked at the crime lab?
According to this document, yes, there were items booked at the crime lab prior to March 14th. In particular, to answer your question, completeness here, particular, that one item does indicate that the first time the lab received it for processing was March 14th.
So they were booked at the lab March 14th, correct?
The first time the lab received these items for processing, according to this document, is March 14th.
And there's no indication on any document as to where those items were before March 14th.
There is. We displayed the bag, me collecting them on February 10th, and they were in our possession at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office.
Whose possession?
The Norfolk District Attorney's Office.
Your possession? Specific one?
At one point, they were in my possession, and I turned it over.
Right. After you turned it over on February 10th, it was the day that you claimed to have found these items. After February 10th, they were not in your possession anymore, were they?
No, once I turned them over, they're not in my possession. No.
When you say turn them over, you're talking about turning them over to someone whom we don't know, correct? As we sit here.
Right now, I don't have a memory of who I turned it over to, but it was a member of our homicide team.
So the next time, sorry, Bukhenik, the next time there's any documentation about those items is March 14th, nearly 6 weeks later, 5 weeks later, correct?
I don't know that to be correct, no.
But you can't point to any documentation. You're looking at the logs. You can't point to any documentation indicating the chain of custody of these items between February 10th and March 14th. Is that right?
This is simply a log from the lab.
Yes or no? Can you point to any documentation?
Ask the question.
Can you point to any documentation indicating where those items went, whose possession they were in what circumstance, between February 10th and March 14th? Can you point to any document?
I know that it was collected on February 10th.
Right.
It's documented it was collected. It was at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office before it was logged into the lab for processing.
You keep answering the same question that I'm not asking, sir.
Objection.
Sustained. No comments, Mr. Jackson.
Sir, do you understand my question? I'm asking, can you point to a single document for these jurors as to where those items went and in whose possession they remained, specifically between February 10th, when you lost sight of them, and March 14th, when the crime lab received them?
Objection.
Sustained.
May I approach?
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. Mr.
Just to
President.
the evidence.
Just to the evidence. False start. As the supervisor, you're generally aware of the evidence in this case, correct?
It depends, but very generally on most cases, yes.
As a matter of fact, as the supervisor, one of your duties would be to make sure that evidence is collected and processed appropriately and properly, correct?
That is the standard, yes.
You're also aware that all of the physical evidence that was booked eventually at the crime lab on March 14th, 2022, was done so by Michael Proctor, correct?
I'm not sure exactly who delivered it or who booked it in, but if you have a document, I will reflect on it.
Take a look at that. Tell me if that refreshes your recollection.
Yes, it does.
May I approach?
Yes.
What is this document you just looked at?
It's the receipt of evidence submission to the crime lab.
And who submitted, based on that document, who submitted all of that evidence to the crime lab?
Michael Proctor.
You're also aware that Michael Proctor eventually submitted a total of some 46 or so pieces of taillight material that was claimed to have been recovered at 34 Fairview on since January 29th, 2022, correct?
I don't know the total pieces, but we didn't claim to recover it there. We recovered it there.
You're testifying that they were recovered, but you didn't recover all of them, did you?
I did not recover all of them, no.
Matter of fact, Michael Proctor, according to you, recovered some of those items, correct?
Some of those items were recovered by Michael Proctor, yes.
And you're also aware that he submitted pieces of taillight material that he indicated he recovered as late as February 18th, 2022, correct?
I am aware that there was items recovered on February 18th. I am not sure exactly if it was him or someone else that recovered it.
You indicated, I think in direct examination yesterday, that as of February 3rd or February 4th, the weather had broken, generally, correct? It was getting warmer.
Yes, the weather was warmer. There were rainy days following the 3rd, I believe. No, the 4th. The 4th, it was raining when I picked up that piece of evidence. So, yeah, the weather had warmed up.
So it was raining and somewhat storming on the 4th?
There was precipitation when I recovered that item. I mean, I don't know if it was storming. There was a low pressure cell coming through. I have no idea.
Okay. But that's the same day that you were told that Chief Berkowitz was driving by and saw the fragments.
The day I picked up the single piece with Canton PD present, it was raining.
So he would have been driving by, windows up, water on the windows, in the rain, and saw the red piece?
Objection.
Sustained.
You indicated that on February 10th, when you did your final visit, made your final visit to 34 Fairview, you indicated yesterday during testimony that there was quote unquote very little snow still present, correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Sergeant, that's a 2-page document. Could you familiarize yourself with those 2 pages, please, and let me know when you finish?
Okay.
Thank you. Sir, what do those 2 pages purport to reflect? What are they pictures of? Just general, an evidence bag and something else?
The first one's an evidence bag with
Can
some.
you tell me the date, just so we can cut to the chase, the date of that evidence collection according to that?
On the bag, the date is 2/11/22.
Okay, what's the
On the sticker, there's another date. There's a sticker March 9th of 22.
okay, what's the,
There's also a date at the
I'm just interested in the 2 pages, in general. I need to mark it for evidence. What's the second page look like?
second page is a large piece of red and black taillight plastic cover, and it's identified by a lab number, I believe.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. So there's 1 page of the evidence bag, the other page purports to be the item that was in the evidence bag, correct?
I don't know that, no.
Okay.
It's just one's an evidence bag with information on it, and then there's a photograph of a piece recovered. I don't know.
I'd like to have those ones and introduce his next one with A and B. Your Honor, request to publish.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Taking a look at this item, can you describe to the jurors what they're looking at, please?
This is an evidence bag. It is labeled with case number, date collected, time, who collected it, description of items enclosed, the location it was recovered, and the victim's full name. It also has a to-scale ruler for the photograph and some identifying marks from the laboratory.
Can you indicate for the jurors who was it that collected this item according to the evidence bag?
According to this evidence bag, it was collected by Trooper Proctor.
And can you show the date, or tell the jurors the date that it indicates the item was collected, or items were collected?
I believe it says 2/11/22.
February 11th, so that would be the day after you were at the location, correct?
It would be the day after, yes.
Can we have the full screen, Mr. Wolt? You see the designation at the bottom beneath the measuring ruler?
Yes, I do, yes.
Is there a case number or case designator starting with 22?
Yes, I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe it's a LIMS number 22-02184.
And do you see an item number listed right next to that case number?
Yes, this indicates it's 7-15.
And there's another set of initials beneath that, it appears, correct?
That's what, I mean, there's letters. I don't know if there's someone's initials. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. This appears to be something that was filled out by the crime lab. The black lettering and numbering, correct?
I would assume. I don't know for sure, though.
Okay, and obviously there's a date down here, 2/17/23, a year later, correct?
Yes.
And then it says Canton at the bottom.
Yes.
If we could have the full screen, please. Okay, you also indicated that there was a label up at the top, correct?
Yes.
All right, if we could go to the second page, it would be page B of this. Can you look at first of all, look at the bottom and tell me if that number designator appears to be the same as on the evidence, as on the previous page?
The limbs or the item number? The item
limbs.
number is 715.
Okay, and that comports with what we just saw in the previous page, correct?
That is the same number.
All right. This would be an exemplar, one of the items in that evidence bag labeled 715, correct? There were several items, but this is one of them. Is that right? It's how the crime lab keeps them separate?
I believe so. I don't know their procedures. I believe so. I know they use alphanumeric identifiers. As I can't testify to their procedures, why they do it, how they do it, or the sequence in which, or the choice in numbers or letters. I have no idea about any of that.
We can have the lights up with the court's permission. We can leave this up. If you could leave that up, Mr. Wolt. All right. You can still see that on the screen, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You went out to 34 Fairview on February 10th, 24 hours before February 11th, right? To pick up a piece of, I'm sorry, to look for additional items of evidence, correct?
I collected, I believe, 20 pieces in total, 6 and 14, the day prior, yes.
You see the size of this, according to the jiggle.
Yes.
How big is that? The widest part.
At the widest part, it appears, if there's no optical illusion with the ruler location, 6 inches.
Okay. That's 6 inches is the size of a dollar bill, right?
That's correct.
Okay. It also looks like it may be more than that from top to bottom, 6, maybe 7 inches, top to bottom. Can you give us an estimate?
Possibly a little bit more, yeah.
Okay. You didn't see this item on February 10th when you were there, correct?
If I saw that item, I would have picked it up.
Right. Wasn't there, was it?
That's not what I'm saying. I said if I saw it, I would have picked it up.
But you didn't see it, did you?
I did not see it, obviously.
But according to the information that we just presented, this item was found the next day by Trooper Michael Proctor. Right.
Based on the information presented, that's what it says, yes.
Yeah, Coach.
Yes.
You can take that down. Mayor, Coach, one more time.
Okay.
Thank you. This is a 3-page document. You
Did you show Mr. Brennan? I didn't see it.
Thank you.
I did. Here we go. Are you familiar with that document? When I say that's a bad question, let me ask it a different way. Do you recognize what's generally in those 3 pages?
I got to take a look.
Sure.
I must have missed your first
Sure.
request.
Sergeant, can you describe generally, just very generally, so I can either mark it or not mark it, do you recognize what's depicted on the first page, the second page, and the third page?
The first page depicts an evidence bag from labeled date of collection 2/18/22. Second page is a red piece of plastic, and third page is also a photograph of a longer red piece of plastic with a little bit of black molding on it.
Your Honor, I would ask that that be moved into evidence as A, B, and C subordinately.
Is there any objection?
No objection.
Move to publish, Your Honor.
Okay.
Sergeant, same couple of questions, if we could. Do you see a date of collection on this evidence envelope?
Yes, this photograph indicates 2/18/22.
And collected by whom?
Trooper Proctor.
Full view, Mr. Wolk. Thank you, sir. And then if we could highlight the lower portion that appears to be by the ruler. Do you see the same, I think you called it a lens number?
Limbs, L-I-M.
Okay. The LIM number is the same number, the 22-02184, correct?
Yes.
And the item number in this one is handwritten as what?
7/16.
Okay. If we can go to the second page, please. Do you see it, first of all, on the bottom, the same item designator number?
Yes, 7/16.
And what is depicted in this photograph?
A red piece of plastic.
That would be a piece of plastic according to the item number that would be contained in that evidence envelope, one of the pieces at least.
I would assume. Yes.
Okay. Is that a similar 6-inch ruler that's being photographed with that red piece?
Yes, it is.
And how long at its longest point would you estimate that piece of plastic to be?
It's more than 6 inches. I mean, probably 7, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe 7.
I know this is a little bit of a challenge, but how from top to bottom, what would you estimate the distance to be at its longest point?
3.5 inches, I guess.
Okay. And then the next page, please, the final page, which would be sub C. Do you see the same designator on the bottom right?
Yes, I do.
That's 7/16, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Appears to be out of the same evidence envelope, is that right?
That's what's suggested, yes.
And how long would you estimate this item to be?
7.5, 8 inches.
And maybe, 3 inches tall? 4?
Yeah, 3. 3.
Okay, we can have the lights up, Your Honor, with the court's permission. Again, the last time you were out at the location with very little snow on the ground, you collected certain items of evidence on February 10th, correct?
February 10th was the last time I collected. I said there was still snow on the ground, maybe in piles where it was excavated. There was very little, but there was still snow on the ground.
You indicated that you obviously looked around the area. You talked about the general area. I think you used the word general vicinity, right? When
Yes.
You collected your items.
Yes.
You didn't see this. And you didn't see the one before it either, did you?
If I saw any of these items, they would have been collected. We did not excavate anything. We simply allowed the thawing and natural recession of the snow to reveal additional items.
When you were there on the 3rd, February 3rd, there was still some snow on the ground, and you did excavate, correct?
Yes, there was a lot of snow on the ground. Yes,
By February 4th, that snow was dissipating some, correct?
it was, yes.
And you were excavating through that as well, correct?
On the 4th? No, we did not excavate on the 4th. The item revealed itself, and I collected it.
That was it. Okay, fair enough. Then on the 10th, you didn't need to do any more excavating because there was, quote unquote, in your words, very little snow. Very little. Right.
Those were my words. Compared to the first day, there was very little snow on the ground.
And in fact, you did not see any of the items that were collected, claimed to have been collected at 34 Fairview by Michael Proctor on February 11th, the day after you were there, correct? Did not see that item?
Did not see that item, no.
And did not see any of the items that you've seen that were claimed to have been collected by Michael Proctor on February 18th, a week later, correct?
Those items were not observed by me, or else I would have collected them.
We can take this down. I want to change gears for a second, Sergeant, if it's okay with you, and switch to the Waterfall Bar and Grill. You indicated that on direct examination, you reviewed video evidence and you had information that John O'Keefe and Karen Reed arrived at the Waterfall after leaving C.F. McCarthy's, correct?
That is correct.
I'd like to ask you about who your investigation revealed was there at the Waterfall when they arrived. What about Brian Higgins?
Yes, the investigation revealed Brian Higgins was at the Waterfall at their arrival.
And you learned that John O'Keefe and Karen Reed arrived at the Waterfall together, not separately, correct?
That is correct.
About what time did, according to your investigation, Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed arrive at the Waterfall?
I believe it was 11:03, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
When they walked in, you've reviewed the video, correct?
Yes, we played it yesterday, yes.
When they walked in, Brian Higgins was already situated in the Waterfall, standing or sitting at a sort of a high top bar table, correct?
Brian Higgins was present. I don't know his exact location. The video would depict it.
You did learn that Brian Higgins, on January 29th, January 28th, going into January 29th, 2022, had what could be generally referred to as a romantic interest in Ms. Reed?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you receive certain text messages from Brian Higgins during the course of your investigation?
I received extraction of his text messages. I did not receive any text messages.
Did you actually receive an extraction from his phone, or was it simply text messages that he supplied to you on his own?
It was extraction of text messages on a CD and also printed out the same document.
Did you perform that extraction, or was that extraction performed at your request by Massachusetts State Police from his phone?
It was not performed by me, and it was not performed at my request.
Okay. So in fact, when you met with Brian Higgins, he simply provided you something that he said had been extracted from his phone.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did he provide you something?
Yes.
Did Brian Higgins indicate that he had taken those off of his phone?
Objection.
Sustained.
What was your understanding about what the items were, the pages of text messages that you received? What was your understanding about where they came from?
From his device and his communications with the defendant and Mr. John O'Keefe.
But you did not have a forensic extraction performed, correct?
That's correct.
And Brian Higgins never gave you his phone to perform a forensic extraction, correct?
That's correct.
So the items that you received were directly from him and him alone. Is that right?
He handed me the items. I don't know who else was involved. You said him alone. He handed me the items.
That's what I mean. You reviewed those text messages back and forth, correct?
It's been some time, but yes, I had.
And those purported to be, I think you already said, those purported to be two strings, I'm going to call them strings of texts. Some string text messages between Brian Higgins and John O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
And some string text messages between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
Would you describe the text messages between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed that he presented to you as flirtatious in nature?
Without having recently reviewed them in detail, I don't want to label it something without having complete understanding of the content. I'm not comfortable putting a label on something.
Well, how would you describe them? I mean, were these business texts?
No, these were, friendly communications. I don't want to put a label on it. They were communication between acquaintances or people that know each other. There was text message communication. As far as flirtations, I would have to take a look at the content of it for certain terms that would support that label.
Well, do you remember a text message exchange about a kiss that was shared?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you remember any text message between the two of them that suggested a romantic interest, either one of them may have had, based on the text messages?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach Miller?
Yes. All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach? Sergeant, I've handed you a document in addition to what's been marked as evidence, item 111. There's a document that's heavily redacted. Do you recognize, or do you see that document?
I do.
Do you see a word on that document?
Yes, I do.
Does that appear to be a redacted form of the document that is the same document or the same page or copy of that page that you saw this morning from those notes?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'd like to have that marked as next in order, the redacted document, with the court's permission.
Okay.
And with the court's permission,
Hold on.
sure.
Is it on the report, please?
Your Honor, may I, with the court's permission, put a side-by-side of the single word that we discussed at sidebar from evidence item 111 and what's been marked as 114?
Is there an objection?
There is.
Yes. Not at this time, Mr. Jackson. No.
In your opinion, having seen those two words next to each other, do they appear to be the same or similar handwriting?
In my opinion, they appear very similar, yes.
Okay, thank you. May I approach one more time, Your Honor?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Sergeant, could you just flip through that briefly and tell me if you generally recognize what that document
Absolutely.
is?
I do.
Thank you, Sergeant. What is that document generally?
Generally, it appears to be screen captures of a text message conversation.
Is that the document that you earlier referred to as having received from Brian Higgins?
It's a printout of the document, yes.
You saw something in electronic format, I take it,
Yes.
and you reviewed it on a computer.
Yes.
Did you receive the electronic file on a thumb drive or a CD or something like that?
I did.
Okay. And this appears to be a true and accurate representation of that electronic copy that you received from Brian Higgins.
To the best of my understanding, yes.
And is that document reflective of the text messages that Mr. Higgins indicated to you were between the string, as I use that word, between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed?
This is what was provided, to the best of my understanding, and now has been printed out.
Okay. With the court's permission, I'd like to ask the witness to read the text messages that he was provided by Brian Higgins.
So we're going to mark this
For identification only.
You're certainly not asking him to read this whole document.
I expect to.
I'm going to see counsel. All right, so jurors, we're really trying to be expeditious as we can be. So there was a big stack that of messages that are going to be marked as the next exhibit. I have two instructions for you folks. First is, as I've told you before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must first find that it is more likely true than not that the person who authored or sent or created or transmitted the communication was in fact here, the defendant, or Brian Higgins. If you do not find that it is more likely true than not that Ms. Reed was the person who authored or created or transmitted the electronic communication, or Brian Higgins was the person who authored or created or transmitted the communication, then you may not consider that electronic communication at all in deciding your case. Now, if you do, if it gets past that and you do find that that burden has been met, these messages are not being offered to show the truth of the statement. They're simply to show that this information was in fact provided to the Mass State Police for their investigation. Those are the instructions. All right, with that, Mr. Jackson, go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate that.
Yes, I'm going to let the witness have that pack. Oh, he's got one. Oh, you know what, Chrissy? I'll take one back. The one for ID will now be the exhibit, and I'll take the other one.
Thank you. Sergeant Bukhenik, do you have the document in front of you that's been marked as Exhibit 115?
I do.
If you could, starting at the beginning, do those purport to be text messages between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed?
Yes, they are.
Does that printout accurately reflect what you received in electronic form from Brian Higgins during your interview?
Yes.
Okay. If you could start at the beginning and read the text string indicating the date of the text, if it's dated, who it's from, who it's to, and the content.
Yes, sir. The text messages begin Wednesday, January 12th at 8:27 p.m. Incoming text message to Brian Higgins' phone from Karen Reed. Hey, Brian, it's the weed whacker. The response is a question mark, followed by a picture of a six-pack of Smirnoff Ice screwdriver in appears to be a package store cooler, followed by a Y-O response, and that is it for January 12th, Wednesday. Do you want me to continue, sir?
Yes. May I have just a moment, Your Honor? Going back to the Smirnoff container, that was from whom and to whom? For the picture of the Smirnoff.
It appears it was from Brian Higgins to Karen Reed.
Okay. If you could make sure to delineate from whom and to whom each text is
Every time?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, and go ahead and proceed.
Thursday, January 13th, 9:24 a.m. From Karen Reed to Brian Higgins. Did you try those Smirnoff? There is a haha acknowledgement response to that text message by Brian Higgins. The next page, it's the same bubble, but continue on the next page. I will repeat. Did you try those Smirnoff screwdrivers? Question mark. I stopped at the Hilly for one last night. A Bitmoji showing teeth. That is sent from Karen Reed to Brian Higgins.
If you could, and I hate to ask this of you, but if you could tell us who it's from before the content, for instance, from Karen Reed to Brian Higgins, content. That would just be a little easier, I think,
Okay.
in flow.
The last one was from Karen Reed. She stated, did you try those Smirnoff, and that she stopped by at the Hilly last night for one. From Brian Higgins to Karen Reed, haha, followed by same person. How did you get my digits? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Karen Reed to Brian Higgins, the Melissa and Lito show. Brian Higgins to Karen Reed, ha ha. Brian Higgins to Karen Reed, I thought you creeped John's phone. Brian Higgins to Karen Reed, ha ha. Karen Reed to Brian Higgins, no way, with an emoji, X person holding an X in front of them. I was the last person in Greeter, Canton, who didn't have your pound sign, number sign. I think even Carrie has it.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please. First, we're trying to make this easier for everybody to either read or listen to or look at, so we're just going to take a minute. We think that we have that this document here. And also, to make it a little bit easier for everybody, Sergeant Bukhenik, you do not have to describe the emojis, you don't have to say anything about what the pictures are, and you don't have to say the punctuation now that we'll be able to have it, but you are being asked to read which text is from whom. Maybe if we agree upon the color, you won't have to say that. Can there be an agreement with that, counsel?
We can do that.
I'll stipulate that the blue bubbles appear to be Mr. Higgins.
And the gray,
Appear to be Mr. Text response.
okay.
That's agreed, John.
All right, I appreciate that. So you can just read the screen or read what you have in front of you.
Do you want me to start at the beginning or?
No. Let's just start where you ended, if you could, please. All right, could we turn the lights down? Can you see it, Sergeant, with the lights off?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
I just don't give my personal number to anyone. How would Carrie have my number? Melissa had it. I actually don't know if Carrie does. Felt like everyone had it. Haha. I knew she did. Sorry you felt neglected. Haha. So no dice on the Smirnoff? I have not tried it. Saw it in the store the other day and thought of you. I laughed out loud. Don't give Carrie my digits. Thought of me and everyone's grandfather. I won't give your digits to anyone. You don't like Carrie? I have no issues with Carrie. Just don't want her having my jack. Saving you as Karen, screwdriver, or weed whacker. Need to think about it a little. I'd prefer weed whacker. That's to think about nicknames. We were tossing around the idea of a short vacay with the current show. Wanted to see if you were game. You don't have a say? Vacation? Where? I know. They need to happen organically. I'm the queen of nicknames. Was just going to rent a beach house in Fort Laud. Something quick and easy. I'm queen of vacays too. Always a good time. I'm going to Nashville next month, 19th through the 21st, for a benefit. One of our guys got shot in the head. You guys should come. So you claim. Advertisement. Jesus, is he alive? Was he from Massachusetts? Yes, he is alive, not from MA. We were thinking late March. I guess the guy in his group is friends with Old Dominion Band. Kid Rock's supposed to be there too. I have a tough time with country. I was a Kid Rock fan back in the day. I agree. Of course you were. From Brockton. LOL. That's how I got my street cred. Funny. I didn't know you had any. LOL. Carrie said you tag along. No one would say that about me. How would I know? We all frequent the same watering hole. I don't know Carrie well. She talks about herself a lot, but I guess so does everyone. I don't ask questions, just make observations, assess, and decide. I am quiet. That's a good policy. You can read most people in a few minutes. Excuse me, mins. Yep, for sure. You go out with last night? Myself. I only had a drink and a half. Sadly, I know everyone at this point. Lame. Why is that bad? BC. That's how much I go in there. What do you do for work? I've never had a problem going to bar/restaurant solo. I go there a little. I'm a college professor. Solo is cool. I was in adjunct previously. Oh, really? Did you mention that? Anna Maria, Quincy College, and BHCC. I teach afternoons and work downtown during the day. What is BHCC? University of Southern Charleston, a.k.a. Bunker Hill Community College. Oh, nice. Trust is life. Line from Good Will Hunting in the classroom at BHCC. Funny. A savant from Brockton. I'm not making fun of BHCC. My parents met at community college. Followed river rights. You're very random. How so? You just are. I don't think so. What's random? Haha. I had no idea who this was last night. For a few minutes anyways. I mean, what's random about me? I think I'm pretty predictable. How so? You must go around beeping at a lot of weed whackers, excuse me. Nope, never. It was my one-time thing. It sounds like I'm scattered and all over the place. I learned my lesson. You have your shit together. That was mortifying. I am still really sorry. Not completely, but for the most part, yes. Sure you are. One thing I don't think you was sensitive. When was I sensitive? To the weed whacking incident. I just snapped when I think guys are being creeps. Can't help it. I'm not a creep. No, you're not a creep. Nope. You're kind of a loner, which I used to be. Not really. I have a ton of buddies, but I only let a handful of friends in that I am tight with. So you think you got me figured out? Circle of trust. Yeah, I said loner, not loser. I assume you know a lot of people? You never really can figure anyone out completely. Your dad died when you were young? He died in March of 2020. I am so not a loser. You won't figure me out, LOL. No one is a loser. I just didn't mean loner to imply friendless. I'm sorry, that's recent. It wasn't COVID, was it? Cancer. I know you date girls who don't lock the house behind them, and you arrive private and observant. I'm sorry. What kind? Lung, brain, kidney, and pelvis. How do you know all these things? LOL. You're funny. Yikes, wow. That's rough. Jesus. I'm sorry. We chat a lot at the hillside. Don't be sorry. Life is hard sometimes. I always figure it out. Who chats? Life is hard, but losing people is the hardest. So I'm sorry. WeChat. That all you got? WeChat? Sure, you're from Brockton. Spit it out. You and I chatted about the girl who kept forgetting the door lock. Oh. She has been out of play for like 3 months now. Out of rotation? Nah, just out of play. I am solo, no rotation. I am not a hoe. Solo? Solo, like no rotation, or woman for that matter. Not locked down. Haha. Good for you. That's the best way to be. Yep. Has its benefits for sure. Are you working? Remotely. Oh. Tough life. Live like a queen. I just got a Saturday invite. Did you say yes? Not yet, but did respond. What did you say, Mr. Elusive? No, I just don't want to intrude on your couple's night. Haha, I am shy. We prefer to hang out with non-couples. Bob Gallery is probably coming too, solo. We'll probably do cards or something at some point. Some PT, excuse me. I'm inviting you. Haha. John said, quote, Brian is being wishy-washy now, end quote. Haha. Did you tell him to text me? No. You cranky now? Haha, no. Just stop being so anti-couples. Most couples don't even like each other. Name a few. Name a few? I don't know. All of them? They all want to hang out with single people? I need a drink. I had a blueberry beer. I'm jealous. Hey, I'm trying to menu plan for Saturday, Mr. Elusive. Don't count on me. Boo. Haha. I am sure you will get over it. Just got my first drink. Where? Brick House. You tied one on last night? I was just thinking about you. Haha. Yes, 4:30 a.m. came early this morning. Eek, that's early. You out late with the Commodores? Solo? Yeah, but you're always lining up your after party. Nope, not me. Selective. I am not a hoe. Hey, no judgment. Haha, you make me laugh. I know, I'm funny. Haha. What's on your mind? Nada. Just about to start cooking. Okay. What's on yours? I'm going to a Hillside Regulars 60th tomorrow. This could be a new low for me. Who?
Detective, if I could interrupt 1 second. When there is a date that's delineated, could you just state the date out loud so the jurors follow the date progression? Starting with the next one.
I'm saying the next text message date or
yes, sir.
Date within?
Where the
yes,
above
absolutely.
or below the bubbles.
Yep. So this screen here is Friday, January 13th at 3:33 p.m.
Thank you.
I believe I stopped before Bob Clinton. Everybody can't stand him. I detest him. His breath smells like ass. OMG, always. His daughter and I have mutual friends. I actually don't mind him when he's socially distant. I think he's friendly. Why detest? Yeesh. Talks like an ass clown. Maybe I'm being too hard. He just says crazy shit. Doesn't know his audience. Geez. Is he different from anyone else in there? Haha. His wife and daughter are cooler than he is. I like his wife. Never met the daughter. A nurse? Yes. Her fiancé is a firefighter. By coincidence with people I grew up with. Crazy. Sunday, January 16th, 12:59 a.m. You're nuts. Foul ball. You stink. You suck. And you're double trouble. You're hot. Are you serious or messing with me? No, I'm serious. Feeling is mutual. Is that bad? How long have you thought that? Are you okay driving? You don't want to stay here? I am fine. I have an office at the PD. You didn't answer the question. Rather you stay here? I wish. I think you're messing with me. Why do you think that? Because this is so out of left field. Where did these feelings come from? I just think you're like me. Meaning, do you have your own kids? I have no kids. How am I like you? Hello? Aren't we alike? I think so. So, why did you get my number and reach out to me? Shoot straight with me. I told you, I just think we're alike, right? Yes, agree. Now what? I don't know. Shouldn't you know? Do you like me? Yes, from jump. When was jump? First time I saw you. When was that? Hillside for sure. When were you interested? I don't know. You're just my type. You think you can handle me? I thought you were happy. How do you know if I'm happy? I just assumed. Are you to handle? What do you like about me? I just feel like you're from my neighborhood. Yeah, ditto. And I think you're hot. You really think that? I have always thought that about you. What? That you're hot, smart, witty. But I didn't think you were interested. Witty? Yeah, meaning quick with a response. Tell me why you got my number and reached out to me. Just thought we were the same, from the same neighborhood. Are you afraid to say what's in your mind? On? No. Didn't I? I am glad I stopped by. I should have come earlier. Do you really live in Mansfield? Yeah, I was basically begging you. You don't have to beg me. Beg. Huh? I will give you whatever you want. How are you texting right now? Ugh. Leaving me hanging. No. Kids? Kinda. How am I texting? Is everyone asleep? I'm just wide awake on my phone. Yes, they are. I should have stayed, LOL. So now what? Yes, you should have. That would have been distracting. So no what? Now. Now what? Ball's in your court. What do you want? Loaded question. What do you want? I asked you. Nope. You initiated this. Spit it out. Hey, we're single and we don't have kids. We can do whatever we want. Don't you have a boyfriend? Where are you? Canton. Where? My office at the PD. Why are you going to Mansfield? Where is that? Canton PD. I have a house there from before I reconnected with John. Oh, I feel like you're not really saying what's on your mind. Do you like me? Yes, clearly. Come over to my house. When? When works for you? Whoever, whenever. When works for you? I asked you first. I think you're messing with me. I'm glad you came over tonight. Me too. Ball's in your court. What do you want, Karen? You look great tonight. I don't know. What do you want? You always do. Yeesh, really? Why? I look great? You're full of it. I think you're hot. Always have thought that. Just have not revealed my thoughts. I'm hot for the hillside. Low comps. Knock it off. You're hot, period. Are you glad you walked me out? Yes. Are you? Deaf. Yes. Are you going home tonight or tomorrow a.m.? We kissed, right? Is this a trick question? I don't know when I'm going home. I am selling my house. What a trick question. Are you moving to Canton? I am following your lead with this. I live here, but I have a property in Enfield. Why my lead? I don't want any responsibility. You started this, right? Why did you get my number and each out of me and each out to me? Still have not told me. Sorry, should I not have? I am fine with it. Just don't know why you can't answer. You're mad at me? OMG. No, not at all. You're being silly. I told you. I just think you're like me, and I am attracted to you. A lot. Feelings mutual. I just never saw this coming. Why? Because I just assumed you were happy with your situation. I was, but things have deteriorated. Why? How so? What did Melissa say when you asked for my number? It is very, very complicated. He and I dated when we were kids, and then his sister died and everything got fucked up. He seemed very into you. I just told Melissa that I had your number, but lost it. That's cute. She wasn't suspicious? No, she's great. Does she know you like me? She's a sweetie. We just agreed that you're great. What does that mean? I was jealous that she had your number. Look, like you're either all in or you're out. Why would you be jealous? I am not attracted to her at all. I have always been attracted to you. Really? Yes. Since the first time I saw you, we would have fun. Where are you? I told you, Canton PD, my office. So are you selling your place and moving to Meadows? Yeah, but where is that? I have had all my shit here for a couple of years, and my house has been vacant. But I'd like to get closer to the water. Are you breaking up or staying together? I don't know. He hooked up with another girl on vacation. I am very close to his niece. It is a very fucked up situation. When was that? And how did you find out he hooked up? I don't want to complicate your situation. We went away for New Year's, the four of us. I put the kids to bed and found him in the lobby of our hotel, all over one of our friends. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It does matter. Did they bang? Does that matter? Sorry, I was just asking. I was just trying to figure shit out. It doesn't really matter. Okay, I won't ask again. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Okay, hear you loud and clear, Karen. Oh, okay. Why are you getting your thing all twisted up over simple questions, Don? I am not, am I? You're kind of getting defensive. Not at all. What is the question? Do you feel guilty texting me? No. Okay. What do you want from me? Nothing. Do you want anything from me? I would hang out. Oh, gee, thanks. OMG. What am I supposed to say? You're being tough on me. None of us is married. True. So game on? We can say whatever we want. Game on? You send mixed messages. I wish I stayed. Okay, game on then. Kinda. Can you hang? Sure. I hope you toss and turn tonight. I always do. Why? Why'd you say that? I just do. Why? 'Cause you're fresh. No, I'm not. Okay. Do you always get what you want? Be sweet to me, please. I could be so sweet. I've been very sick. I had colon cancer and 10 surgeries in 18 months. I'm a wreck. I had no idea. Are you okay now? I never get what I want, just what I need. I am okay. What do you need? What need to be content? What can I do to make you happy? Haha, don't worry. I've always been very happy. You talk in riddles. Just tell me why you contacted me, huh? What's the big deal? I told you. Just think you're like me. What does that mean? Like you want to hang with me?
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.